The other thing that I say is, I think, is continuing to progress and be true about Burning Man is that it is, from an artistic standpoint, it is a canvas like no other, and that there is work that could not happen anywhere else out there, and that there are people who are doing work year after year out there who are getting better and better and more ambitious and more capable of doing amazing things.
And there's something really, really incredible in the understanding that how much money and effort and time and everything else that people put into things for no reason except to share it with other people.
A pure aesthetic
There's
experience.
nothing else that I can think of that occurs in the entire world that is so just for the sake of doing it and others enjoying it.
It's a completely non-discerning art gallery. And the walls of the art gallery are these incredible mountains and this incredible desolation and everybody else's art. And it's so full of such interesting, fun things. I think that's why people consider Burning Man to be such a relationship test. Because that person who, like, is usually perfectly good when you're at home and, like, you can't think of anyone else to come home to, you're now in a place filled with some of the most interesting people you've ever met and the most interesting backdrops you've ever seen.
And
it's
they're
this
all
cool party.
wearing so little clothing.
Yeah, and everyone is so attractive when they're filthy.
Ooh, yeah, they are.
Yeah.
What is it to apply to that? So you will never look that good in your
Yeah.
life.
It's like,
Everything is cracked open, you're bleeding,
It
you
reflects
haven't
a lot
eaten
of light.
days.
Everybody's
you're exhausted
It's like
and you're
powdering your nose.
filthy, and yet everyone looks goddamn
I
great.
only have good hair for those, like, 3 weeks a year.
Everybody's pupils are dilated, so you think they're attracted to you no matter what.
Is that a thing? I'm lighting a lot of cigarettes, so I know that makes me, like, 12% more attractive to people
Lighting
who
a
smoke.
cigarette.
Yeah.
This message brought to you by Philip Morris.
We should have Levity back on with a mic
Yeah.
sometime.
Yeah, we got some really good stories out of Levity. She's incredibly quick-witted and funny.
Yes, she is. She is a hoot.
Yeah.
A riot.
Yeah.
And I'm sure has tons of Burning Man stories because we go to Burning Man with her and then we don't see her there. So she's got to be doing interesting things.
Yep.
And
I think the only time I've really seen Levity out there in the wild is when we ran into her at the Naked Bike Ride.
Oh, man, that happened.
I don't think she was very comfortable with how naked and drunk we were.
Oh, we were very naked and drunken on a side street, and she couldn't get past us.
Yeah.
whose
us
fault
identifying
was
her.
that? I think that's Levity's fault for not being totally prepared for 3 to 5 friends being very naked and very drunk right up on Levity's face.
Yeah.
It's true.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but she wasn't working for us that year, I don't think, so we weren't, like, her bosses or anything.
That's also true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, our authority extends only so far, and mine doesn't extend anywhere anymore.
Accuracyalert@gmail.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram.
Never.
We're on this podcast app. Like
Never
and
u-
subscribe if that's a thing you can do in your podcast app. We have none of the money, and we make a little bit from our patrons, who we love. Thank you, patrons, for always being so kind and engaged. I will upload you a lot of audio this month if someone fucking texts me between like 1:30 and 4:30 in the afternoon and reminds me to upload like 5 hours of audio for you guys. You can do it. I think you can do it.
Stay tuned for Never Ending Season 6 as it... 5.
No. So never ending season 5.
Season 6 will be here in
There
54
is no
weeks.
proof of season 6.
Yeah.
We have seen no evidence that numbers can go up past 5.
We will make you this commitment. When season 6 happens, you'll be the first to know.
So
Yeah.
open
So
up
don't delete us from your feed just because we're intermittent.
open up your ear holes as we slowly become excited about the possibility of going and doing this thing again.
Remember when we used to party in the desert?
Some people did a Juplaya and called it a Plan B, and I'm not impressed.
Accuracy turd coming to a bucket near you.
I want to hold out hope that the Renegade Burn was really awesome. My FOMO shouldn't make it so that I hope that it sucks. I was so worried that cops were going to ruin it and people were going to die.
I hear there were a lot of tickets given out.
Tickets
But
don't sound like life-ruining situations.
didn't hear about any life ruining situations. Heard about a lost dog. Heard about a lost monkey. There's
Monkey?
yes.
Oh, people will buy monkeys and just abuse the shit out of them, Beth.
I heard about lost car keys, which I'm like, yeah. There's like a person on the Reddit sub, the Burning Man Reddit sub, that's like, "Hi, so I had a rental car and I lost the keys. No one can find them. We went into Gerlach, asked for help. We did all this stuff. People looked. We don't have them. So now we're looking for a way to tow this car back to Reno."
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Buy a magnet on a chain and just swing that magnet around your head on that chain.
I feel like losing car keys has always been the like fundamental, this is how I will fuck up Burning Man. So I've never done it.
You
I
gotta
always
put
have
a
a
floaty on 'em.
spare. You have it in a set space that many people know about, and you never lock your car doors except if you're worried about cops.
Even when I've gotten a rental car, like as long as it didn't have a fancy key, I would get a copy of that key and just rivet it to my belt.
I always lock my vehicle. I take everything out of the vehicle. I lock the vehicle. I leave it locked. I put the key in one place, and I never touch it until I leave.
Smart. I bring a spare out there because it worries me so much.
I usually have a spare attached to the bottom of my car, but you can't really hide a key when your key is a little computer that turns on your robot car.
It's true.
Yeah, but you're not driving that car out to the desert.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
The electric car.
I honestly don't think I could get from Sparks to Gerlach on the battery. There's no way. I would have to get a solar charging rig and just like pull over.
You got to charge up at Nixon.
There's no charging station.
Well, we'll see what there is. There's no anything at Nixon right now. Or maybe there is. I don't know. I haven't been to Burning Man in since I read that article about how the landlord like kicked out that convenience store in Nixon.
I somehow haven't been to Burning Man for a decade. I don't know how that's possible because I swear it's only been 3 years.
I mean, I keep having the dreams.
Oh, you guys, the saddest thing was watching the live stream of the burn. I mean, it was beautiful. It was the man. It was Crimson lighting it up. But it was the man burning and no sound. Like you could hear the crackling of the timbers. And that's weird. Like the man on fire, that sculpture on fire, and nobody's going whoop in the background. Fucking weird.
I don't know how you could even watch it.
Listen, everybody has a slightly different relationship to pain and suffering.
It's true.
And you shouldn't judge me for my kinks and fetishes. It's nice.
I'm avoidant. Hello, I'm Beth, and I'm avoidant.
I'm not saying I didn't watch it and cry. I watched it and cried. But we didn't have a burn in the backyard like we did last year.
Oh,
so I
God.
had to watch something.
I had a good cry about it like 4 or 5 days after the burn. I like was out hiking up at Twin Peaks, and it smelled the way that this beginning of San Francisco fall smells. Like there's this change in pollen and the wetness in the air and the fire smoke in the air because we live in that time. And it just started to smell like fall, and it just all of a sudden hit, like, oh yeah, that didn't happen. And I just had a nice long sobby cry about it all by myself. Let's do it next year. Can we? I'm done with this.
Yeah.
It's fucking garbage.
It's for sure next year. I mean, God damn it. Might even do Playa next year, especially if I'm doing that one job.
Yeah. I mean, I'd rather go back to the uncomfortable beach than go to Chuplaya. It doesn't hit. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been junkies, but methadone ain't H. It'll tide you over, but but it ain't the same fun.
Uncomfortable Beach was pretty great.
Uncomfortable Beach was amazing. I'm just like, well, let's do that again, but like not at Uncomfortable Beach.
Apollo says the next time we should go to. He named it. I don't remember the name of the hot springs off the top of my head, but it was down in the Southland.
I just like something that's less than an 8-hour drive.
Well, this would not be that. This was like by Joshua Tree.
Nah, fuck it. I'm not going anywhere further than Playa ever again. I've been driving so much during this pandemic. Fuck this shit.
I've never been to Joshua Tree, but isn't Lodo in Joshua Tree?
Yes.
Lodo is a valid reason for Joshua Tree.
Yeah, that's enough for me.
Also, Lodo said if it was within 2 hours of the Bay Area, Lodo would go.
Well, we're in the Bay Area,
Right.
so he should just come up to the Bay Area. Lodo, this is a challenge to you because I know you're listening to my voice, buddy. Come up to the Bay Area, see how tall my kid has grown. Please.
Did you notice that this recording is inside of my mouth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is very inside of my
This
mouth.
recording is entirely inside of your mouth, like several miles away from Rex's mouth. Right about in the same place that my mouth is most of the time and has been for the better part of a decade. And our friend Levity is like several counties over from the mic sometimes.
This would have been so unusable when we got it. We've learned so much, guys.
Yeah, incidentally,
So far.
welcome to season 1, Burn Barrel 1. Because this interview took place in late 2015, early 2016.
And listeners, if you're wondering why you haven't heard something that we recorded all the way back at the beginning, it took us a while to figure out how to do this thing technically. And this audio was beyond our skills to make listenable in those days. You'll hear even today it's rough compared to what we put out.
Well, that's why it's a burn barrel as well.
Yeah.
That, and we didn't know what we were doing as podcasters back then, so we just sat down and talked with our friends, and it didn't fit with the very structured, stringent vision that Beth had for the podcast back in 2015 or 2016. So
Please enjoy our early attempt at structure as we try and get some improv impressions out of Michael M. and Levity.
oh God, we were going to do that with everyone.
We gave up on this bit so quickly. And actually, I think the one Michael M. gave us is the only time we ever got somebody to give us an effective impression.
Yeah, that
Everybody else
motherfucker
kind of
could improv.
choked it, and it hit the cutting room floor because Beth has better taste as an editor than we had as podcast concept designers at the time.
And Michael and Levity were sharing a microphone.
I mean, Levity was like nowhere near a microphone as far as I can tell in this audio.
She was earlier on, and that's all in the discretionary cut that the patrons get. But I did cut an awful lot of levity out of this interview, maybe 25, 30 minutes worth. Because as much as I love my friend Levity, my friend Michael died last year during the pandemic. Not of the pandemic, but...
He died? I didn't know this.
Yeah. No, Michael died like a year and 2 or 3 weeks ago when this will come out.
Oh, guys, fuck. You should give people a warning about this stuff.
That's why we're putting this at the beginning of the episode.
Well, someone should have told me before I just listened to the
That's why I left the living room when you two were proofing it, because I've heard enough dozen or so hours of my dead friend talking in my ear this month, and I can't take it anymore. I've been performing with Michael M. almost since I've been performing in the Bay Area. And this recording is from right before my kid was born, when I stopped doing a lot of performances. So this is one of the last opportunities besides a one-night stint at Speechless that he coordinated for me.
And our first live show.
So there were a couple times.
That's really the audio that's lost to time.
Yeah, that truly is. But I found this, and I wanted to put it out for everyone, because Michael M. was an amazing super interesting, fabulously creative guy. He's from that intersection of Burning Man and weird 90s Bay Area techies. And man, that guy has just been doing the weirdest, coolest shit since like I was in short pants. His work with the Cacophony Society was something super cool and something that I found out about shortly after we started acting together. And when the Cacophony Society put out their big ol' look at us, this is the history of the weird shit we did compendium, I got to work on a rough draft zine with just me and Michael, like 5-6 hours a day for a couple weeks, putting this like antiquated punk rock blog together. Remember zines?
I remember zines.
Yeah. Well, so did Michael, and I got to help.
I'm a
make
goddamn
one
Gen Xer.
Yeah. So this is my friend, and he was awesome, and I love him, and I wish I had gotten to say goodbye, or go to a wake, or have the temerity to sit in front of a fucking computer and do one of those god awful fucking Zoom meetups my friends did to mourn.
Zoom funeral?
Yeah.
Zoomeral?
I couldn't bear to do this. So,
Yeah.
I couldn't bear to do that. So
we
I
get
did
to do
this.
this.
Yeah. This is my, oh my God, I love you. I can't believe you're not around anymore, Michael episode.
So, Michael.
Yeah. We should just we're sharing a mic. I'm not sure how hygienic this is, but that's part of the theme of this. Obviously, is
Oh, I remember who you are. You told the story at the thing a year ago that I did the thing for. Was that enough?
I hope that's clear for continuity for everyone. So yeah, I've my name's Michael M. I've told stories and done things and so forth. And why did you ask me? Did you have something in mind? And we hadn't really talked about something
We just
specific
had
or not.
sacrifice.
Well,
Okay.
no, besides the fact that you have quite the mellifluous voice, you are a cacophonist of some note, and if I'm not mistaken, you are a person who does not go to Burning Man anymore.
That is accurate. Yeah, I stopped going to Burning Man way before most people started, and actually the most important thing about that is that whatever you are doing, someone will always tell you that it was cooler last year. That happened before when I went in '96. It was like, oh man, last year was the last good year. So that's true of every damn thing in the world.
I appreciate that sentiment.
The most important thing is that you found out about something first, so you can hold that over everybody's head.
That's
Right.
When I was the only person who knew about Matchbox 20, I thought Matchbox 20 was a lot cooler than they ended up being.
You could have saved us all so much trouble, actually, if you'd
You told us to
acted
just
definitively.
jump
then.
right to
Yeah.
Carlos Santana.
So, Michael, what we'd really love to get from you is your favorite story about your experience at Burning Man.
Well, so why don't I tell you about the camp that I went with, or the most notable camp that I went with, and some of I'll start with that, and we'll see the specifics from there. So I was camped with a group called Bianca's Smut Shack, where that was.
What year? Just for context.
For context, this was 90. So this would have been. I guess 97 was kind of the peak year. So, rewinding, Bianca's Smut Shack was actually one of the first websites ever. It was like one of the first 1,000 websites ever. And those guys who made it went on to work at Wired Magazine. And Wired Magazine, I think in 94 or something like this is actually a bit of a story I've written about. There's a cacophony book, Tales of the San Francisco Cacophony Society book that I've written about a little bit of this in that. Amongst other contributors. But Wired Magazine folks went, the web was really kind of something that most people didn't know about, and they're like, they heard about this Burning Man thing and they went there. And so the guys who did this site called Bianca's Smut Shack, which was a chat site, and the way to think about it is these guys literally found out about the web. They were computer science students, grad students, and they heard about the web like on spring break. And one of them decided it wasn't going to go home, so he was like, I'll just stay here and build a website, whatever that is, and figure out what it is. And so there was a long period of time on the web where the web was basically physics papers and one nightclub, and that was Bianca's Smut Shy. So there are lots of people you'll find, early web goers, who will tell you it was the first site they ever went to. And
It was the first site I ever found free internet porn. I have fond memories of waiting for the nipple line in that GIF to download. So it went from being just a Head and Shoulders to something actually erotic.
I thought all of that was a joke when you see it in cartoons where someone is sitting at the front of the computer in the 90s and the image is loading from the top down. I totally thought that was
You
just a
could
joke.
go to the kitchen and like make a sandwich and come back to the computer and most of the image would have loaded and you'd realize like, fuck, that's not sexy. So then you'd click on like another image from the thumbnails that were so low res you couldn't actually see what was in them and like eat your sandwich and come back and then rub one out.
Wow. I think I would just pay one of my friends to take their clothes off at that point.
And this is what it's
Call
like
it
to
a
have
day.
a penis.
Sandwiches and
I bet you got really good at making sandwiches.
Catchphrase, yeah. So Bianca was a chat site and a smiley chat site, but just a general kind of community. So it was the only community, the only sort of fun chat thing that was going on the web at the time. You know, the web was new and nobody knew how anybody was ever going to make money on it. It was kind of just this crazy thing. They got Burning Man really, really clearly. It's like, this is just as interesting and crazy as we are. They're like, well, what we should do is build the shack in the desert. I don't know if there's a name for it, but there's always the phenomenon the first year that you go to Burning Man and you're completely overwhelmed and you leave it with this new enthusiasm. Next year, I'm gonna, and for them, it was like, and then their entire year planning that they were gonna build out this camp. So what we did at Bianca's, and this had to do with the guys who ran it, they had always thrown parties. It kind of mirrored some parties that they had thrown. We started collecting couches around San Francisco. You know, everyone was on email, but not everyone had cell phone. This was a totally different time, and it was just like the alarm would go up. I saw a couch at 23rd and Folsom, and you know, somebody like, okay, I'll get it. You know, we had like a couple of vehicles, and like just through the whole year, we were our own big trash day, just like.
And
ready
let's
for
be
working
clear,
time.
this is the historic time period of 1996.
Yes.
Okay, just making
Back in
sure
the day.
back in the day.
Back when
It is
couches
20
were
years ago.
heavier than they are now.
And everything was uphill among them.
So we're stockpiling couches, and then eventually took like a giant truck full of couches out to the desert, built a house in the desert, as it were, put our couches there, and then opened up a kitchen and served grilled cheese sandwiches, which is the signature Bianca's food stuff, just nonstop. What I always liked about what we did was that it starts off surreal and ends up eminently practical. You which is, I think, a great approach to a Burning Man
Wonderful
project.
sentence.
Yeah. So you and I got it because the first year that I went, I was not actually with them, but I went and saw it happening, and I was like, "This is bizarre." There are a bunch of couches in the middle of the desert, and then when you sit down, someone just comes running up to you with a smile and a tray full of little grilled cheese cut into little triangles, neat little triangles, and said, "Would you like some grilled cheese?" And I'm like, "Of course I would like grilled cheese."
It's a serious question.
That's exactly what I want right now. It's one of those things where when you discovered it in that way, it was amazing when you just bumped into it, and you probably all had that experience at Burning Man, that there's no expectation, and so when you round the corner to something that you did not know was there, as opposed to something you've been hearing was going to be there all year round, which is more of a phenomenon probably of the present day, that you know about somebody's theme camp more. But this was more like you just bumped into it, and it's like, wow, this is great. So 96, they built the shack for the first time. In 97, they built a bigger shack with more couches and more food. And that year, I actually ran the kitchen. And we stopped in Reno at the Wonder Bread outlet store and bought, more bread than they'd ever seen one group buy at once. and brought it to the desert along with all this cheese. We've been, all this planning had gone into
Wonder
what
Bread
we do.
has an outlet store in Reno, Nevada.
Are you really surprised by that?
No, that seems like the most American thing I've ever heard in a sentence.
I'm trying to remember, it's quite a while back now. We got out there and probably were first serving on Monday, and we had gone through all the food we brought by Thursday.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and this was in the olden days when the burn was actually on Sunday night.
All the grilled cheese or all the camp food, everything?
All of the everything we'd planned to serve.
I see.
And so we made a trip to Reno to buy more frickin' bread. And what was happening was that the word was spreading around Burning Man that, oh, there's this place, it's Bianca's, it's really awesome. More people would come. Some people would seem to spend their entire Burning Man just chilling out on a couch at our place, but it had its own, community and things. People were standing up doing entertainment sorts of things. We were playing really cool music. We had a great moment when there was a sandstorm that came up, and we built our camp with electrical conduit, which is a cool way to build it. So we did rebar and then electrical conduit over it. So you got this really nice big rectangular shape and then a big tarp on top. And that's awesome until there's a huge wind that could rip apart your entire completely connected thing,
Square shapes do not do well out there.
Conduit is not load bearing. If you get a 10-foot long tube of metal for 95 cents a tube,
He said load.
I was listening. I'm glad your story went where it was because I was just like, shit. Never thought of using conduit. Conduit's
Why
really
have I
cheap. never
thought about conduit?
Wait a minute. There's no way conduit would work.
It mostly worked fine, but but it was really big. We had a really big sail basically attached to it, so it was dangerous. And as this big storm kicked up, we had to rouse everybody from. So the cool thing about it was everybody chilling on couches, and we're like, hey, everybody, you need to get up and help save Bianca right now. We had to untie it from everything that was holding it on the ground and just have people kind of hold it and be more flexible. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of the opposite. I remember thinking at the time it was kind of the opposite of raising a barn. It was like keeping the roof on the barn against the elements.
It's kind of like drowning someone inside of a tub, right? You hold it down and it keeps moving.
That's a dark way to put it, but go ahead.
That was a fantastic in-crisis moment of community. Community really happens when you're bonded by crisis, and that's important to find in the midst of everyone being really happy to be out at Burning Man and being creative. It's like shit should go down sometimes, and you've got to hang with each other and help each other out, even if you don't know that dude sitting next to you.
That's probably the best thing about Burning Man.
Yeah,
because something's always going to go wrong, and you really figure out hey, everything's going to be okay, guys. It's awesome.
Yeah, and you need someone to say, yeah, antibiotics for a reason you were given them.
Totally. Yeah, that guy.
Yeah,
I got the name Levity because of a crisis situation thing, and it was exactly that experience.
Building things and going through crises together. It's just adult.
And being way too drunk.
This is what it's like to have a penis.
When everything.
Episode title. Boom!
The best advice I ever got actually was you should be peeing, and that was oh, you're my friend.
You should be peeing. Oh, levity.
There's a lot of everything's fine. I'm functioning as I would in my normal life. And then it occurred to me that it had been at least 16 hours before I needed to use the bathroom. And I mentioned it casually to a campmate, and he just looked me dead in the eye and said, you should be peeing.
And you should be pissing clear.
I mean, I think that's one of the
goals. It's good to have goals.
Yes.
One of the endearing qualities out there is because of how quickly you make intimacies with people. In our every day-to-day life, we don't get lots of opportunities to share the kind of intimacy that you get to share when you're in a basically hostile environment. Everyone throws up. Not everyone, but most people.
Most people, yeah.
Everyone is going to be challenged to their limits at some point in time, and it might be because of physical discomfort, or it might be because their relationship is inevitably falling apart, or it might be because they haven't eaten in 3 days, or can't sleep because they've done too much acid.
Or you have to fire one of your friends.
Oh.
Or
Friendly
carry him
fire.
back to camp over your shoulder like a sack of potatoes.
Oh,
Actually, I thought about it when I was out there, and it's such an interesting thing because it does accelerate friendships, and there has to be some sociological effect that is like continuously present in that kind of environment. And it reminded me of something that I had thought about when I was younger. And I went to a Guar concert, and you know,
From my hometown
Everyone-
of Richmond, Virginia, by the way.
oh, don't tell anybody that.
For their sake
We
or
all-
my sake?
We all feel less cool when we're like, oh, this band was totally awesome. They're from Richmond, Virginia. I like getting dressed up with the friends and like.
how old were you when you went to this Guar concert?
I was
18.
I was 13. But I didn't know it was into alternative stuff.
You
I
were
didn't-
such a little weirdo when you were a kid.
Baby, you got no idea. But it was one of the first concerts where like I just gotten into like the alternative scene in my school, and I was wearing huge kickwear pants, and I was like I had
That
spikes
you
around my
had to
neck.
throw away later.
I did. They
Yeah.
were covered. That fake blood doesn't come out of shit.
No.
But I remember going to the concert and feeling all cool and pretty and cool and like putting on this persona because like that's what happens when you dress a certain way because you're having that kind of fun. And then I had no idea what I was supposed to expect, and you get covered in that fake blood, and everyone suddenly starts having a different level of fun because they're like, well, fuck it, I'm not pretty anymore. And it's kind of the same thing. I felt that same thing at Burning Man. We're like, you're already dirty and tired and you're not going to look your best and no persona is actually going to work. So everyone's just them, and it really helps to accelerate friendships. And then everything goes wrong and you're already like, well, you've seen me shitty, let's just go all the way.
I think that's one of the things that's most attractive about volunteering out there. You're putting yourself in this challenging situation with a group of people that you have to work together with to accomplish something completely ridiculous, like building a giant wind-resistant tent in the middle of the moonscape that is
In the middle of the wind.
yeah, in the middle of the wind, and then carpeting it.
Yeah.
It is really just a ludicrous amount of work for no particular reason.
No particular reason. That is the
Completely
thing.
absurd.
Like, this
Yeah.
is not actually doing anything but supporting itself. Like, this is just here because we put it here. There's no purpose at all for this, and it's awesome and it's rad, but like, what some people die, people drive nails through their hands, people totally break up, like ridiculous shit happens all the time because like, hey, you know what? I want really, really, really tall flags in the middle of the desert for people to dance around while on acid.
And I feel like you end up getting those kinds of bonds like guys in the trenches got. I mean, maybe not quite that extreme because you're rarely covered in your buddy's brains. But it's not uncommon to be covered in their shit and puke, and
Yeah.
it's, not that far a step down.
That wasn't their favorite part either, by the way.
I mean, it
Probably
is
the drinking as much as anything, but the
Yeah.
brains part, yeah.
seeing people at their worst. And like, I have always gone to Burning Man with a group of people. I have a camp that I am with that is a group of people. I've never done the experience where I went by myself or with just like an intimate partner. I've always gone with like almost 20 people at minimum. Those people are either my friends for life now, like they're always going to be my friends, or I don't like them at all.
You learn really quickly.
Yeah, you do.
Well, there's always the one rat bastard in the brigade.
Well, that's usually your best friend. I mean, we're all friends with Andy.
Andy, right?
You motherfucker. I don't know, love you forever. The first year I went to Burning Man, I never thought I was going to come back. I had the worst time and hated everything, and I had no idea what Burning Man was, and I did go by myself and didn't make any friends. Like, didn't find anyone who I wanted to talk to.
Burning Man, it's people. It's people.
It can be
No.
a cold, lonely place.
Yeah.
It wasn't even cold and lonely. It was just that a lot of it I was totally unprepared for the environment because I really didn't know. I ended up there totally by accident, by coincidence. And I was so unprepared for the environment, and everyone that I happened to end up camping with had been going for so many years and didn't know what being unprepared for the environment looked like anymore. So they didn't understand why I was having a shitty time, and neither did I, because I was too dehydrated and too hungry and too annoyed at the heat. And like no one knew how to help because they were so like covered on those bases, and I just never thought I was going to come back because I couldn't communicate with anyone about how to make an experience better.
Your friends should have checked in on you. They're assholes.
I didn't have friends.
But you just went with some random
You had
folks.
that other thing.
You had acquaintances.
Well,
You had just human beings in proximity with no
Basically.
emotional involvement whatsoever.
Exactly. And then none of those cool oh shit moments happened that were like, hey, that guy.
If only I were covered in brains, I feel like I might care about
Exactly. Right. If only more things were going wrong right now.
Can we get a windstorm? How about a rainstorm?
you. And that's when sabotage becomes your best friend way to break the ice.
I certainly heard most of the people around me having sex. Yeah, and that's a kind of intimacy.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's like, now I know what you guys sound like while you're doing that.
Why? I've seen 2 of the 5 of us here having sex.
Wait.
Scene? I love
I mean,
that.
I have actually
You
seen
got, yeah, you guys don't have curtains on that.
Right, you don't have
camper of
curtains on the
yours.
camper.
Yeah.
And the whole hangout area was out right outside.
At least 3,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Or
great
do you
for
not
us.
have a mirror in the
There
bedroom?
are blinds that are broken.
Oh, that's right. They don't always stay on.
Right.
Curtains.
Yeah, it's cool.
No, they were on. There was just like gaps.
Oh,
That's good.
yeah.
we,
And there's no hiding when that camper is being fucked up.
Oh, man, does it move? Yeah.
On its hinges.
And the shade structure around it sways a little bit. Like,
Is that the wind?
That
Nope.
horse is- Sometimes when it's the wind,
Here, help us keep the roof on. Oh, never mind. It's them again.
So one thing we'd love to get from you guys, if you would be so kind, is your impression of a sophomore burner telling their super boring to everyone else but exciting to them Burning Man story.
Your impression?
Yeah.
Oh.
Be that person.
You know
Embody
that person.
asshole.
You've heard this over and over and over again. What does it sound like?
Wow.
It sounds like someone who grew up in a Christian family discovering that they can like
I've got a
fuck
penis.
and get and God is actually not going to come smite you if you go
But then it
enjoy
goes
your
in-
life. It's kind of like that. Like, oh my God, did you guys know fun was a thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We didn't grow up like you.
No, but come on, give it to us. Embody that person.
So, did you guys do anything for Labor Day? Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I went to Burning Man. Yeah, and it was cool. It was cool. No, I think next year we're gonna do a theme camp, and we're gonna get a really big RV. And no, it was amazing. You know, it's just everyone's out there so creative. You know what I mean? It's just it's just like so much. You know, seeing creativity, and I'm a creative guy. I don't usually do it. You know, like, but you know, I want to. So next year I'm gonna. You know, I don't know. We're gonna rent a big RV and we're just gonna be really creative out there. We haven't figured it out. I think we're gonna. I think we're
air
gonna.
conditioning.
I think yeah. I think we're gonna do. You know, I've got all these. When I was a kid, you know, those little army men. So I thought we could glue the army men to the RV as like an art car, and. So yeah, and then you know, we've got you know, I've got some tissue paper and chicken wire, so I thought that we could have like, it would be the art RV, or I don't know. Yeah.
This is amazing because I can't tell if you're just that good of a storyteller and come up with shit off the top of your head that you're that good, or if you're actually making fun of yourself the first time you went. You just don't want us to tell. You don't want to tell anyone that this is your story.
I think the RV's name is obviously the Art Fee.
The art.
Yes.
How does the capitalization work? Would the R be? Would it be a big R, little a, big R?
Yeah.
Yeah.
V.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Would you be in our theme camp?
I thought
You
you were
have
in
to
my
put tennis
theme camp.
balls on your rebar, okay?
We could-
People are gonna get hurt. You gotta like keep it safe.
We could do an RV circle. You know, we could park all our RVs, and then in the middle we could. I don't know.
The one that I'm guilty of that is really super embarrassing is the like coming back and going, oh yeah, you should go. You should come with us. You should totally go. Come on, go. Just go to Burning Man. No, you'll love it. You don't even know yet. You don't even know. It's so good. It's gonna change you.
You're gonna learn who you are. You're gonna be the best friends you're ever gonna make. Like, I can just join the military.
No, I don't think
You
that's
should go to
something
Burning
be
Man. You
guilty
really
of.
should.
I actually, the two things that I at this point, actually, first I'll tell you my biggest gripe with Burning Man at this point, and then I'll tell you the two things I think are constant, and I'll do that quickly.
Please don't. We love this voice.
So what used to happen with Burning Man, and this may be something that actually peaked before I went there, not to is that there's so many filters to even know it existed, that if you went out there and somebody was there, it inherently proved that it was somebody you wanted to know. I think that was already starting to change, but it was still the majority. That was the case in the time when I was going. And it was like you would walk up to somebody and it's like, so where are you from? And there would be no fear about talking to anybody. I don't know what it's like today, but there are definitely people that I know that go that are tourists and that are not. I don't know. Maybe it's different when they're out there, but I'm not sure if I were to go again, that I would feel as comfortable walking up to somebody and not thinking they're a cop, potentially, or whatever. But back then it was like, who are you? Because you're exactly like me, but you probably live somewhere else. It's like, where are you from? Albuquerque? What the fuck's going on in Albuquerque? Tell me the 3 cool things that I should do if I were ever in Albuquerque.
That's a really good point.
What I worry about now, and it's easy to say this being from San Francisco because, or rather I should say as someone who lives in San Francisco, Burning Man was originally a small event on the beach and eventually migrated to the Nevada desert, but it was one and eventually the largest of a calendar of weird events, some of which repeated and some of which were one-time only things, and they were just dressing up in costume and going to a bar and pretending you were in a noir film, and sometimes they were very intellectual and sometimes they were sewer tours and urban exploration things, all kinds of different stuff. And there was a real feeling like Burning Man was the one big thing, the main show event, and then there were lots of other things when we came back. And in San Francisco, there's more opportunity to do that than in Richmond, Virginia, let's say. that there's more of a variety of those things, and not just people, you sitting on couches with your friends at home going, it would be cool if we could, and never actually doing that. But
motivated, genuine weirdos.
Well, yeah, and so I worry that now there's more of a thing where less weird stuff happens in the city at home. I feel really strongly that things should be happening here all the time, weird things, creative things, and that people save up all their energy to do one big thing in the desert for a week a year, and not enough comes back home, or they go into planning mode for
I have a few friends especially who in Pennsylvania and New York in that area who have gone to Burning Man once after been doing the regional burn thing much more and enjoy the regional burns quite a bit more because of something similar to that, where that thing comes back to their city and they get to go home and be weird and find the other people who go to those things and do the weird things and create these little communities.
And I wonder how
around
much
it back in their cities.
there might be 2 crossing trend lines here of Burning Man becoming more of a global phenomenon and less San Francisco specific, while at the same time San Francisco is losing its traditional bohemian feel due to economic factors.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite as much of a doomsayer on that piece as a lot of folks are, in part because I'm personally committed to never fucking leaving this town.
I didn't move to San Francisco to fucking move to Portland. And all of my goddamn friends are doing it, and bully for them.
But the dream of the 1790s is alive and
in San Francisco.
Important. Yeah. Okay. Sure. I'll go with that. But I think now there's much more located in Oakland because that mini migration definitely has been happening, and it's tough right now. But things also have gone and will go through cycles. But to get back to that other thing, I think that impulse to share and to bring people and you have to go, I think is a good and healthy thing. And the 2 things I always tell people, as somebody who doesn't go but who had gone before and who knows tons of people who not only go but are also the core organized in 98.
So when did you start?
96. So I only went for 3 kind of prime years, but then I was doing lots of cacophony stuff around that, and I've stayed very much part of that community. I mean, that's, if I'm going to describe the community I'm a part of, usually that's what I will say, the sort of San Francisco Burning Man community,
absolutely.
because
having lived in the city for that long, it is the same as going to Burning Man, I think.
Yeah. I mean, my running joke used to be that, eventually we're going to say, are you going to stay for Burning Man? That like, like that would be the exception, because the entire city would be gone. And I did really enjoy the parking, I have to say. Thank you guys on that behalf.
We do it just for you.
Yeah, but if you haven't gone, you should go. That's bottom line, the first thing I ever tell people. I mean, it's like dropping acid. I think that everyone needs to do that. It is a frame of reference you should have. It is different than any other experience you've had, and I have no doubt it's valuable for everyone.
Horribly uncomfortable, but potentially inspiring things. Acid, Burning Man, polyamory. You should do all of them. You probably shouldn't stick with all of them. You're going to learn a lot.
You may want to pace yourself into it and not do all three starting on the same night for the first time.
I don't know that much about the Cacophony Society, but always been a big fan. I think I actually heard about them first through Chuck Palahniuk, and I was like, oh, this sounds really interesting. It's this kind of disruptive art that I admire, and I work in what I would consider some of the edgiest art in this city, which is dance theater and performance art. It's a lot of still pulling from that sort of historic movement in this town.
I think in a lot of ways, honestly, Burning Man really is an expression that comes out of, and not to say it's limited by that, but it has a lot at its core, the spirit of it that is the Cacophony stuff. To me, the Cacophony stuff is it's like that thing of being out at Burning Man, of the comfort of knowing that if you're here, if you get this, if you get why this is fun, I want to know you. We should be talking. We're going to have so much in common. You're going to teach me things.
So how would you describe the Cacophony Society for people who have not heard of them?
So Michael, who is of course one of the original co-founders of Burning Man, has a great thing he says that basically you may already be a member, and it is like that. It is like I feel it's like a genetic thing that when you do that. But it's it's adults who have a playful and mischievous and just fun attitude towards life, and that manifests in. I mean, the thing is that the song is already playing when you get there. If you're joining the Cacophony Society, someone's already sort of started playing the tune, as it were, of what events are. And if you think about, in the same way that you get Burning Man when you walk into it, oh, I see what a theme camp can be. No one's outlining a definition of what that is. And Cacophony events are kind of the same sort of way. There's all of the Cacophony Society newsletters, which are all up on the Internet Archive. You can peruse the mail art Cacophony list and just see the types of events they did over time. But it's everything. It's actually where the Santa run, Santarchy, comes from, and before it turned into Brofest in red. It's hard. Sorry, not to have a good sort of succinct definition.
Arts collective.
No, and that's so. Actually, this is a great story. Actually, my partner grew up in the Bay Area, and she had heard about the Cacophony Society for a long time, and she was living down in Palo Alto, and coming up and looking for it. And I think once upon a time, because Cacophony would do this, Cacophony actually has a predecessor called the Suicide Club, which was more inclusive and not actually looking to have more people. That's sort of the progression, is a club of people that were weird friends and did weird things together. Then the next evolution was the Cacophony Society, that were more open to having more fun people come join them and play, to Burning Man actually being a charged festival event that has a national and international draw.
And infrastructure for the first time.
And that's a pure rant for another day, but my thumbnail explanation of Burning Man is, and why, how it has changed, is that it started off as a frontier and has turned into a settlement. And the lesson is to choose your metaphors carefully, because the city was initially kind of an arbitrary decision, a rather casual decision. They were going to call it Black Rock City, and the next thing you know, there's a DPW, there are street signs there, and that it's natural to build out to complete that metaphor. So to go back to what is cacophony, actually the way that I think about cacophony, because there's a Portland Cacophony Society, San Francisco, and LA Cacophony Society, most of which are pretty much extinct at this point, though, at least in an organized fashion. But what they really are is sort of a satirical club attached to a particular city. They're actually social critics, and
pranksters. And that's something that has very much fled Burning Man.
Well, yeah, and the knife drawer is locked, and all the sharp edges are filed down. There's no shooting range, and there are not even tiki torches, and there's controls around art cars and burns. That's a factor of living in the real world and making your own decisions. That sometimes things get hurt. It still happens, obviously, at Burning Man, but in the early days of Burning Man, and I'm talking about before I was involved, if you could make it out there and survive, because there were not porta potties, there was nothing except you needed to be able to take care of yourself. And if you couldn't, you better know enough people there that they will take care of you.
Because there's no infrastructure to get you out.
Yeah, and that's the nature of a settlement, is you have to take care of the populace in a different way, rather than being a frontier where anyone who can make it to the frontier, who's up for that trip, knows it's a fucking frontier and is going to bring fucking ice and water, or bring water at least, and can live without ice very easily.
And knows not to stay downrange of the gun range.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a really hard thing to do when you've got 80,000 people.
Yeah.
And when there are no physical markers to the landscape.
And anything they are not up for doing, they are not foolhardy enough to try and not take it seriously and try and jog in the heat of the desert and things like that. But a responsibility starts to happen when you're a settlement, when you're a municipality, that you have to take care of all of your citizens no matter what. And so the Med Tent and the Rangers, and in their earliest incarnation, they knew every single person that was going to come up to them, or they met them the first day, but, there were enough that they could meet them the first day, or whatever, it was more of that vibe. And so you were taking care of your friends. And I'm not sure, again, how it is today, but I know in when I was going, it was like, people would feel like it's like a civic duty. I'm going to do I'm going to do as a ranger.
I got an emergency pelvic exam by one of my friends in Playa. We take care of each other.
Was that a necessary procedure, or was that elective?
And you're differentiating from the non-emergency pelvic exam.
No, it was the non-emergency pelvic exams which made me worried that there might need to be a real pelvic exam.
But what I think is really ironic, going back to, there's a Portland, there's an LA, there's San Francisco, and they're very different actually, because their critiques, their satires of their city are very different. Because their cities are different. Yeah. And so it's almost Oedipal that Burning Man, a cacophony event, would grow up to be a city. And what I've often thought, and I've said this many times, but I don't think I've ever said it in a recorded medium, is that if I did go back, what I really want to do is do Black Rock City Cacophony and serve that same purpose to take the city down a notch in terms of taking itself too seriously.
It was funny that you mentioned that the spirit of pranksterism has sort of faded out there, because it's not something that has ever really been discouraged culturally. You say that the rough edges have been filed off, and that's certainly the case. But there's almost never been a critique of behavior. There have been a few occasions where the sheriffs have shut down displays that, for some reason, they've deemed obscene, like Jiffy Lube's cornholing active sculpture, which I loved. And the one time the capitalist pigs were ejected for really outrageously harassing people for no particular reason. I can't think of any instance where anybody has been taken to task for challenging behavior.
It's just the sense that I get that people are taking themselves a lot more seriously out there than they used to.
I would agree completely, and it's just interesting that has sort of died.
Like, nobody used to shout "fuck you" at me when I would shout some silly thing at them from my bike, or we're staff, so we get to drive around and pick up trucks with like regular vehicles during the event because we're working. And like saying something goofy to someone who just walked in front of your moving vehicle, like, "Hey man, cars are real," that used to garner some sort of funny response from that person, and now they'll flip you off.
Yeah, I wonder if that's just a outgrowth of our lack of humor as a culture in general.
Maybe, but that's also like the reason why I go early and I stay late is so I can hang out with a different echelon of people
Goddamn right.
than the participants.
I mean, that's why I go early and then don't stay for the event.
I know there's a higher percentage chance of me meeting somebody interesting that is one of those truly capable people, because that's something that I think is really important about
for
Burning
sure.
Man. Like, I think you should have to earn that party. I think you should have to be able to hang and handle your business. And once we get that out of the way, like, you probably know how to do some stuff I don't know how to do if you're one of those capable people who just happens to have a job that allows you to take 2 or 3 weeks off. Or no job at all. Like, if you're professionally homeless and you can make it to Burning Man every year, like, I want to know your story.
Yeah. Well, it's again, it gets back to filters, right? So the filter, I at least this is the way I always look at it is, yeah, if you go early, there are different folks that are there. If you stay late, there are different folks that are there. If you go to certain camps, I'm sure, that are more, I don't know, old school or edgier or weirder or whatever, you're going to find different people, and that thing is still there. I guess I always thought of, this is the world if we ran it, right? Mm-hmm. Except that as it scales bigger and is more world famous, those filters have changed, and so I still think it's probably the closest thing on Earth to if we ran the world, but it's less like that than it was probably
because we let the rest of the world in.
Yeah, we're still running it. We're just not running it just for us. We're running it for everybody.
And again, frontier and settlement. There are different things that are good about a frontier. I mean, a frontier is not sustainable, and it doesn't let you fucking relax, and you can't actually earn a living running a frontier. But running a settlement, it turns out, you have a civic organization, and I have lots of friends that work for the organization now, and it's great because some of them are fucking unemployable anywhere else, and I think that's
God,
beautiful.
isn't that accurate?
Yeah.
There are people running things at Burning Man, and I love them to death. I don't ever want any of them to think that I don't.
Right.
But, like, I can't get a job as an executive at Burning Man now, and I run my own nonprofit. Mm-hmm. There are people who are executives at Burning Man that, were they to apply now, they also wouldn't get the interview that I can't get.
That is absolutely true. That is also true of most startups that turn into public companies, actually. But
Sure.
but not, so that's a dynamic.
Bound to change now that the project has taken over and they have to be completely transparent with all their processes. Mm-hmm. Now every single job is going to have publicly vetted.
Oh, man.
And now the Burning Man org office looks like a startup company.
True.
I mean, there's a lot of
Cheaper
pictures
snacks.
of really cute people on the walls. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Most of whom are in their underwear.
Yeah. That makes for a nice work environment.
All right, I actually should run, but I'd love to drop by again sometime.
Absolutely.
That'd be fantastic.
Yeah, and it's either here or at Beth's house, which is right around the corner from your house.
All right. Fantastic.
And also, like, you should hang out with me and Beth, who live right around
Right?
the house.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, that was Michael M.
Yeah, that was Michael M.
And Levity.
And Levity. I miss Levity. I don't know where she is in the world. I hope you're doing good. I don't know where Michael M is either, but I'm sure it's awesome and full of squiggles and like a lot of lights and incredibly kind greenish raccoon looking techno wizards.
Wow. D-Dayism has a really interesting afterlife.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's got a dogma, so it's a religion. So send us emails and tell us about what's going on in your lives, and we'll read them for another Burn Barrel, because it's been well over a year since we've heard from you, loyal listeners.
You might be wondering, some of you are asking us on the interwebs if we're going to have an episode on the Plan B Renegade thing that happened this year, and whether or not
tragedy.
we're going to call it Accuracy Turd, which of course
Oh shit, that is good,
right?
That might even have been a joke that somebody made at me online that just went past me in the moment.
That was 100% a joke that comes from our Facebook feed.
God.
You know what? Let me give credit to credit where credit is due.
If you would like Renegade Burn stories and you went to Renegade Burn, you should come and tell your stories because none of us got out there.
Yeah, that's for sure happening.
Yeah, but like in a week and a half from now, when we can find out whether y'all did or did not do a Sturgis rally instead of doing a Coachella. Because I saw almost all the motherfuckers out there right up on each other not wearing masks. And yeah, you're outside, but like there are several people who had the Delta variant who knew that they had it when they went to Renegade Burn and fucking did it anyway. That is on wax.
And the answer is Kevin Clem. All props to Kevin Clem for accuracy. Turd. Kevin Clem, come collect your t-shirt.
Yeah, we don't have t-shirts, but now you do have to.
The hell, we don't have t-shirts. We have an entire goddamn merch store at burnernarc.com.
Burnernarc.com.
We got t-shirts and hoodies and whatever the fuck.
Yeah, and I have new designs. I should put them up.
Yeah.
And someone should volunteer for us and put things up for us because editing is hard and we're all quite sad. And if you want to volunteer for us, you should. We're editing again. We're producing stuff to put out like more and more every day.
Yeah.
Do our back end.
And and now that stuff has gotten slightly easier, if you want to come tell us your stories again, we'd like that.
Mm-hmm.
We can do it by phone, but if you're vaccinated, you could also come on into the studio and record like adults.
Yeah,
Except
breathe in
vaccinated burners.
whatever everyone else left in the foam of these mics.
All you'll get here is cat dander in your nose.
Accuracy Third is produced by I'm D-Day.
5 seasons in, I think we've actually finally broken Beth of her immense distaste of introductions. I'm Rex.
I'm Beth.
Her distaste is there. She's just not fighting it.
I have submitted to this situation.
Yeah, watch as she chagrins.
Butt comfort.